Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Aura Vasquez. And, okay, let's see. All right. It is my honor to be here representing my beautiful city of Angels, Los Angeles, and the Department of Water and Power. We're the largest publicly owned utility in the country. And we serve about 4 million people in Los Angeles, and we employ about 9,000 people also. And as a commissioner, one of the things that I have been really pounding on thinking about is this issue or this idea of equity. And how does equity shows up in a utility? What do we do? How DWP can do it better? And being a public utility, a utility that belongs to all of us in Los Angeles, how can we show up in a way that represents everyone and not just some? And what does that mean for us and our business model? So I'm Colombian, and I grew up in a small sugarcane town back home in Cali. And I was raised in a very involved family. And one of the first things that I remember about equity is being with my dad. My dad used to bring me to town hall meetings and community meetings. And as I was playing with my friends, he would yell my name across the room and say, Aura, ven acá. What do you think about what we're saying? And his actions really empower me. They gave me a voice. They gave me a sense of belonging, acceptance, and they gave me a sense that even living in a patriarchal society, I had a voice. And that's equity, empowering people by giving them a voice, especially those that don't have it. And as the 6-year-old that I was in my hometown, I want to do the same with other people. So in 2010, I decided to move to Los Angeles. And when you think about Los Angeles, you think about Hollywood, the beach, beautiful beach, and the hiking and the outdoors. You think about also, for me, it was a place where we could come together and enact change and bring about change. And similarly to where I grew up. And that coming together is another way to show equity and people investing in positive change in their communities. But Los Angeles is not all sunshine and movie premieres and red carpets. We have a lot of challenges, just like any other place. And one of them is that we have the worst air quality in the country. Since 1979, we have never met the Clean Air Act. We also have traffic and congestion, poor public transportation. And we also have the issue of homelessness. And so many of our unsheltered community are out there. We have not found a solution yet. And what is not equitable is when we don't address these issues because of how we look, where we live, or how much money we make. And the opportunity that Los Angeles has is that we're a microcosm of the world. So we're a lab for innovation, and we really give up results that are life-changing. And if we can resolve it in Los Angeles, we can resolve it anywhere else. And as we find local solutions for global issues, we became the largest metropolitan city to find ways to get to 100% renewables. And that I'm super proud of, and I think at this point of the state of affairs of our country, we should all be plugging for this and being excited about. We're working with the National Renewable Energy Lab to find a way to get there in a way that is reliable, is consistent, is cost effective, and that works for every customer, not just some customers. And we have put together a group of stakeholders from all different walks of lives that come and advise us on how to do this and how to get there and what are some of the priorities and some of the things that when you sit in a utility, you don't really think about. We work with a lot of engineers, and sometimes we're a little out of touch about what's happening on the ground. So let's talk about how 100% is going to really play out in Los Angeles. So this is a map of the poverty score in Los Angeles, and you see in the red area are folks that live under the poverty line. So $30,000 a year for a family of 4. These places are mostly people of color, Watts, the eastern part of Los Angeles, Pacoima, South LA, and now this is a map where the most solar participation is, and with the most solar potential is. So ironically, also in red, the people with the most solar potential are the people that least have solar. Think about why. So, because we have this very complicated issue of gender and socioeconomics, and where to best deploy renewables in an area where maybe it's not so ideal, or maybe perfectly ideal, but it's not happening, we came up and pioneered the Equity Metrics initiative, or like I like to call it, the Equity Metrics. And we're the first utility in the country to utilize a tool, or to develop a tool that considers gender, socioeconomics, location, and everything that the department does. So now we have an equitable lens to see how we spend our money, where we make our investments, where we have maybe more solar, or maybe when we change pipes. And it touches everything we do, including policy and rebates also. And it also helps us think about the most vulnerable communities first, which is, I think, is sometimes unusual. So this is Linda Jones. And Linda is the first customer to ever enroll in our solar rooftop program. So what's interesting about Linda is that she also makes $35,000 a year for a family of 4. She lives in Huntington Park, which is a very vulnerable area in Los Angeles. It's very low income, a majority of people of color. The other issue with people like Linda is that sometimes they don't have the upfront cost to pay for solar. Or maybe their rooftop is not so great. Or maybe their credit score is not good. So how do we support people like Linda to also join the benefits of solar and renewables? And this is why we created this policy. So in 2017, we installed a panel system on her roof that it fits about 4 kilowatts of solar back to our grid, where she didn't have to pay annual fees. She doesn't have to go through a credit screening, or she doesn't have to have the ideal roof. We take care of all of that. And at exchange, she has to just collect $360 a year for the solar that she basically sells to us. And without the Equity Metrics program, we couldn't possibly have come up with this idea and support people like Linda, because we just didn't have a way to do it. And I'm a renter. And for me, it's also been very important to think about people like me. So how renters also can benefit of solar and renewables and all of this new green energy boom. Especially when in Los Angeles, the majority of construction is going to be multifamily and buildings and apartments. So under our Solar for Renters program, which is a pilot program that we just implemented, folks can buy blocks of solar at a fixed rate for about 10 years, and that will freeze the cost of their bill. So for us, it was really important to also empower ratepayers to be part of the solution and reap the benefits of renewables and the clean energy revolution, because renters should also enjoy renewable energy, and renters in Los Angeles should do that also. But the Equity Metrics really unleash a whole other way for us to see the world. And one of this picture is taken at our Crenshaw charging station. This Crenshaw is located in the southern part of Los Angeles, and is mostly African American. It has the most incredible music and food. And it's also one of the places where there is the most air pollution. So we thought, how can we support folks that live in these areas where there's the most air pollution to be EV adapters. So we placed 22 as state-of-the-art, the largest EV charging station, rapid charging station of Los Angeles in this area, to try to promote folks to go EV. But not just that, and trying to promote more adaptation and more EV infrastructure also in that area, we created a program for EVs that folks can buy used. So you can buy your used EV car and also get a benefit from the department. You get a rebate to further promote this. So it's exciting, and for us, that's really equity. Making these programs accessible for people that really need them, not people that just have them. But we don't only look at solar, and I want to talk to you about Pacoima. Pacoima sits on the San Andres Fault in Los Angeles. And they're the majority Latino, they're working class. And for us, it was really important to make water accessible to this community in case of an earthquake or a disaster. So if water pipes break, for us it's really important that people have access to safe water in that area. So let's take a look at how we're doing that.
One of the needs for the rate increase that we just received was we have great infrastructure needs, and some of the infrastructure needs have to do with our aging pipeline. Foothill trunk line was done in the 1930s.
That's old riveted steel, and that's the kind of pipe that we're worried about failing. So we're going to replace that pipe where it's both old and undersized with a new 54-inch pipe. And that pipe will actually allow more water to move into the Southern Tujunga area, be much more efficient and effective, and also allow us to have better reliability in the whole neighborhood system in that part of town.
If you pick it up with a crane, there's actually a boat. You'll see it bend. So when the earth shifts and moves, this pipeline is able to move and shift with it, so it does not break.
We're using this new earthquake resilient pipe to do those crossings so that if we have movement in the future in another major earthquake, the pipeline should survive and make sure we have reliable water service to the Southern Tujunga area.
Yay. So I think what's important is that this was not placed in a community where there's political connections or where there's rich people, but where there's the most need. And I want to share like a tiny story, Gordon, if you allow me, about how we have been really thinking about answering these questions that are complex. And I have to return to 11-year-old and me, and in my beloved Colombia, I saw a science show about the ozone layer. And I was so alarmed to learn about global warming and all of the effects that global warming had on us back in the 80s, that I went to my school and I asked to talk to my principal, and I asked her, what are we doing about mitigating the effects of global warming? This is back in the 80s. And she turned to me and asked the question that I think has been the most defining question of my life, which is, what are you going to do about it? And I turned around, and in my little, 11-year-old head, I said, well, in the show, they talked about aerosols. And they talked about how harmful they were for our environment. So I said to her, why don't we ban aerosols in my school, and maybe the town, and maybe we can stop global warming? And she laughed, and she said, okay, let's do it. So we went ahead and banned aerosols in my school, and I want to contribute. I think I contribute also for the hairstyles to, let them go. But the 80s, guys. So we're here at the Meeting of the Minds with so many I have met the most wonderful people. Thank you, Gordon, for that. I have the most interesting conversations. And as we begin defining what equity means personally to us, let's not forget how we can best have a much more equitable future. So what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to make electrical cars and autonomous cars more available, not just to early adopters, but for everyone? And about making the poorest streets more safe and drivable, and not just in the wealthiest communities. What are you going to do to bring healthy food to neighborhoods and turn food deserts into food forests? So what are you going to do about finding and designing solutions that eliminate our dependency on fossil fuel? So as we all have different talents and we all get there in different ways, I want to just say that the solutions might be different for each of us, but we can turn them into action, and I know that we will, and I know that we can. So thank you so much for your time.